Welcome and good evening to the City of Shakopee City Council meeting for May 17th, 2022. And item number 1, if we could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Brennan?
Here.
Councilmember Whiting?
Here.
Councilmember Contreras?
Here.
Mayor Mars?
Here, thank you very much. Now, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, Mr. Reynolds?
No, sir.
Thank you. Councilor Contreras?
To approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilor Brennan. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The agenda has been approved. Moving ahead to consent agenda. Mr. Reynolds, are there any changes, corrections, updates?
Nothing from staff, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilor Brennan?
I'd like to remove item 4D1. D as in dog.
4D1.
D?
D as in dog.
Others? Others? Do you want to make a motion to approve the modified?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the modified consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the modified consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Whiting. Further discussion? Otherwise, before we vote on the modified consent agenda, we would read it into the public record. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. These are the consent agenda items for 17 May of 2022. 4A1 approves the city council meeting minutes for 3 May of 2022. 4A2 adopts resolution number R 2022-075 approving a gambling premise permit for the Shakopee Lions located at Manna Brewing Company, LLC at 129 Holmes Street. 4B1 adopts resolution R 2022-078 approving the final plat of Henches Industrial Park, 3rd edition. 4B2 adopts resolution R 2022-071 authorizing application for a Minnesota Historical Society large legacy grant. 4B3 adopts resolution R 2022-072 authorizing application for the Lassard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council grant. 4C1 adopts resolution R 2022-073 authorizing application to the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. 4D2 adopts resolution R 2022-074 authorizing application to the Minnesota Department of Transportation Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. And 4D3 adopts resolution R 2022-076 authorizing application to the Minnesota Department of Transportation Metro District Local Partnership Program.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I have a motion and a second for the modified consent agenda. It's been read into the public record. There would be no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much. Let's move ahead then to item number 5. Now I'd like to call any citizen resident that would like to come forward and speak on an item not on the agenda. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and welcome. Good evening and welcome. Commissioner Mike Beard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Mike Beard, 8434 Horizon Drive, Shakopee, Minnesota. First of all, let me apologize. It's been a long time, I think, since I've been here. What with winter and travel and COVID and all the other things that have been going on, it's been a little difficult, I think, to make schedules overlap and make things fit, I guess. But it's important that I stop by from time to time and just say hello and let you know that we're glad that you're here. That's Shakopee is the county seat of Scott County, and it's stayed that way. And as we work for the 150,000 some citizens of this county, we recognize the importance of Shakopee, and especially as a county seat and the main driver of the economic engine. And it's important that we stay coordinated and that we work together on several things that are happening. As we, as a county, of course, being an arm of the state, the administrative arm of the state, have a lot of things to do that fortunately you don't have to do. You should be grateful for that. So there's just a couple things I wanted to touch on, then I'm going to extend an invitation on behalf of my colleagues at the county, because I am the county board chair this year, and so there are things that come to my attention. Of course, the discussion and back and forth over the library has been on the docket for a couple months. We actually had it on our agenda today. We had a proposal for a new licensing agreement. A licensing agreement, it's not new, we've never had one of those before, from your council, or apparently from your council, to our board. It was discussed at length. I'm here to tell you we politely decline to participate in that kind of a discussion. We would much rather have this, because we're partners. We're partners with 6 other cities in this county, always been partners with Shakopee on the operation and maintenance. The very existence of the library has always been a joint venture. We'd like it to continue being that. And I think that means we as elected officials need to sit down and break bread together and talk about how we're going to make this work, if we're going to continue to make it work, if we're going to have a library in Shakopee, how that's going to be structured, and how the county gets to use that if we think we need to, or if we want to, or maybe there's other ways if we're going to do something with the library that doesn't involve lending books. Perhaps we should be discussing, maybe chair to mayor, before we try something a little off the beaten path or something like that. These are just thoughts that occurred to us as we were discussing this today. So we're not prepared to take the step that you've asked us to take, so we're going to respectfully decline. Instead, we're going to invite you to a joint workshop. Our staff is going to do that. Leslie will be calling Mr. Reynolds, and we'll try to make it so that our schedules fit together so that all 10 of us can sit down across, not across from each other, around a table together.
No sharp edges,
No what?
90-degree angles,
Oh,
or
no,
angles,
no. There won't be
round.
any sharp, pointy things going.
We can go around and around.
We'll find some way to make it work. And if I have my way, there'll be coffee and donuts involved in the whole process. That always makes it go smoother. I suggested we invite you up to the new courthouse. One of my colleagues said, no, let's do it at the library, where we can actually be right in the facility and walk around and look at things.
A room at the library, you can't book a room there, can you?
We'll see if we can work that out. We know people. We can book a room. I'm sure we can make something work. So anyhow, that's one thing I wanted to just to discuss, that this has become an issue that I don't think should have been an issue. And I'm sorry that as an elected official representing the majority of Shakopee that I was not able to intervene before it got to this point. Thank you for those of you who have reached out to me to discuss this. And I'm sure between the 10 of us, we can probably reach some sort of amicable and reasonable conclusion that serves everybody well, especially the 48,000 people that live in this town. That would be a good thing. Along the way to things, there's been another little dust up that I just need to touch on. And it has to do with housing vouchers, police reports, and motels and hotels in this town. In the current political environment, once again, homelessness is a raging issue, and it seems to cycle through about every 10 or 12 years for those of us with hair that looks like mine and been around the block for 40 years or so. And it's, once again, another raging issue. I think at the current moment, we've identified something in the neighborhood of 29 or 30 homeless people in Scott County. Now, those are people who don't have any warm place to stay, because there are a lot of people that have stepped up to the plate to help. The CAP agency has done some work. The Sheriff's Department, if they find somebody sleeping in their car, they're authorized to actually hand out a voucher for a local hotel, motel, or something like that, just to get them in out of the extreme cold or the extreme heat. We do that as a matter of course. Several area churches do it. without even calling us and telling us what they're doing. They just hand out housing vouchers because they think that's part of their Christ-like calling, is to do those things. I applaud them for doing that. There are a couple other foundations and nonprofits, some of them who you've dealt with, we deal with, who actually take it upon themselves to help provide temporary housing. One of them, of course, being the motel or the hotel, Holiday Inn Express, which donated on their own volition an entire floor for people who would pay a reduced rate and stay there, and things like that. These things go on. It's part of what, with our SCALE initiative, but more importantly, from my perspective, what we hoped for when FISH was formed, probably 15 years ago, that it wouldn't just be about government fixing these things, but we would provide a venue where people of faith and goodwill and good hearts could actually step up and actually do useful and helpful things for their fellow citizens without coming through City Hall or without coming through the county courthouse. And that's happening. Sometimes, though, when that happens, communication doesn't always happen because people who are doing the Lord's work don't often like to brag about it. They just do it. And sometimes the consequences of that are things that we can't foresee because we're dealing with free agency. We're dealing with human beings, most of whom behave themselves and express great gratitude for the handout and the hand up. There's a few that can't. They just have to be mischievous. I don't understand that. Been at this a long time, and I don't understand that side of human nature. But there are those people out there, which is why we give thanks to God for people like Luke Hennon and Jeff Tate and the men and women that they employ to keep us safe and to bring some semblance of peace on the streets. We appreciate them doing that. And we appreciate them putting on their social worker hat now and then, too, and helping out folks who are really stuck in a hard place. That's something we should also discuss, but we should do it, the 10 of us, together. Good coffee. It'll be in the afternoon, I'm sure, so it'll probably have to be decaf. That's okay. We can do that. So I would encourage you to watch for, or just ask you to watch for that invitation. I'm encouraging my administrator, and I'm sure my friend, Mr. Reynolds, the administrator here, who's more than just an administrator, he's actually a personal friend, that you help find a way for us to get together and actually sit down around a table and see if we can't work some of these things out. There's a few other things, too, that just crop up from time to time because people do useful things and live their lives, and sometimes it bumps up against somebody else, usually not intentionally. But when that happens, that's why we're elected. We're the people's representatives, and it's up to us to kind of step up and make sure we sand off those sharp corners. Mr. Mayor, that's about all that's on my heart tonight to talk about.
Well, very good
If there's any
update.
questions or comments, I'm certainly happy to sit for those
Questions,
or
comments?
whatever you need.
I'll comment.
Counselor
I want to really thank you for being here tonight. You just lessened my my liaison report for tonight.
Oh,
So,
glad to help.
because I was going to suggest that we have a workshop also to discuss the homeless housing, because I think it's pretty complex and it needs both of our organizations to talk about it, because it's really affecting us and in our community. So I think that would be a great idea, and I appreciate the conversation on the library. I think that would be also beneficial to both organizations to have us sit down and talk about it, because I don't think it's moving along, and we have to come to some resolve. So thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Others? Counselor Contreras?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add to what Councilman Brennan said. I appreciate it, seriously. I have felt that I'm in a bind because my heart's one place and I need to represent and so in a way I was like, I'd love to come to a meeting point. So thank you for doing this, and I truly appreciate it. And I hope we do come to a good conclusion where we all work together. So thank you.
That'd be a good deal.
Counselor?
Appreciate the opportunity to negotiate. I think there's a give and take, and for every good deed, there's a cost. And sometimes those costs people aren't aware of all those costs and those issues and those concerns. So I think they need to be negotiated and talked about, and like everyone has said here, come to some sort of mutual agreement.
Good deal. Mr. Mayor, it seemed to me there was a third thing I was supposed to talk about, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was, and I forgot to write it down. My bad. So I'll just take that as a sign that I'm supposed to stop talking now, and that's enough issues for one night. But thank you.
Commissioner, thank you very much for your update and your comments, always valued, appreciate it.
You are welcome. Bless you guys. Thanks.
This is the point in our agenda when someone can come forward and speak on an item not on the agenda. Any others that would like to come forward? Mr. Reynolds, have we received any electronic communication?
No, sir, we have not.
Well, seeing none then, we would move ahead then to item number 6, business removed from consent. And we removed 4D1, which was the Quarry Lake Park Road improvements, and Councilor Brennan.
Yep, I would just like more conversation regarding the denial that is suggested, and so we can get a better understanding of it.
Others?
I'm sorry.
Other discussion on this?
We can, go ahead.
I guess,
Yeah, I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
oh, okay. Counselor, did you have more?
No.
Okay. I just, this item has a very good intent. For me, it has a couple issues. Number one, the cost. Seems too rich for my blood here for a park road for what I think is access for two organizations, Excel as well as the ski club. I wish we could, several years ago when we were activating that part of the park over there, at least for the Quarry Lake mountain bike course, I thought it was an inexpensive way to activate the park. And now I just look at this price and go, wow, that's a lot. I thought it would be substantially lower. So I don't favor this until there's more partnerships involved. Mr. Reynolds.
I just wanted to make clear, Mr. Mayor, Excel would not be a partner in this particular road. We're actually looking at another route for them that'll go up on the north side and around that side of Quarry Lake, and that also removes the conflict that we would have between people on the bike trail and if trucks were going back through there. So it would have only been the ski club that would have.
Well, I saw that part back to bring the northern route back into play, which hasn't been discussed for a long time, but Councilor Whiting?
So I had some discussions with Jay Tobin, our Parks and Rec person there, about this in the park and the road. And if you've been out to Quarry Lake Park, and I didn't really understand what Excel wanted, and what they wanted to do was access their property when the train is blocking there on Stagecoach. And so if you've ever been on Stagecoach, that's regular. I think we went on a tour and we got blocked by the train. So my assumption is that they're going to use this access every time just in case they might get blocked by that train. So that makes their trip count up quite a bit in my mind. And so if they're going to be traveling around the park regularly to their site around the back of the lake by the Excel Bike Park, to me that was a conflict, that was a safety issue. Then when we looked at the road that's proposed now, it's an old road. I mean, the bed's there. I don't know how much engineering is going to be involved, but I don't think as much as would be involved going around the lake. I think that's where the expenses are and things in here. But the path is there. It makes more sense. There's less conflicts. They go through the parking lot to the road. And I think they're going to use it more often than not the way that train blocks Stagecoach. So to me, I don't want to put any money into a road that's going to be a problem. And if we're not going to do that, then it doesn't make sense for the taxpayers to invest, in my mind, for a nonprofit.
More? Yes,
Mayor,
Councilor.
I can just add a little. To me, what is holding me back is I feel the one stakeholder who is going to get a big benefit out of this isn't seriously putting a lot of dollars down. So to me, it's like no. So that's why I'm okay with this not going through.
Okay,
All right.
yes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2022-067, which rejects the bids for the Quarry Lake Park Improvements Project, PR 21-006.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilor Contreras, and hopefully this can bring on additional discussion with the partner, or we look at the magnitude of the road and find a workable solution at a lower price down the line. More discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Thank you. Let's move ahead to item number 7. I'd entertain a motion to open a public hearing for 7A, the vacation of a public roadway easement. Councilor Contreras?
I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing for item 7A. Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. The public hearing is open, and staff will present. Michael?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this is a partial vacation of a roadway easement. You can see on the aerial here the proposed area of vacation. So there are currently 3 homes that access this roadway. There's a section that's an easement. There's other section that's actually in a dedicated right-of-way. Currently, those homes go down to Old Brickyard Road, County Highway 69. At some point in the future, once this parcel develops up here, there is the potential, if these homes remain, that they would be able to go into that subdivision. So this is the area that was requested for vacation. Again, you can see these 2 homes. There's a 3rd home that's in the trees. Staff is proposing that we not vacate all of this, that we leave it so that if these homes remain once that subdivision is created, they would have access out to the future roadway. So the area highlighted in yellow here is the recommended area for vacation. So staff recommends vacating the easterly 180 feet of the requested roadway easement, as that will align with the roadway and a future residential development on the Briggerman property.
Great. Questions of staff? I guess I just want to, so I drove up here a couple weeks ago to this area. The interchange off of Brickyard is scheduled to be closed, that access on the west side.
Mayor and Council, at some point, so we'll be bringing forward in June to the Planning Commission, then to Council, annexation of these properties along with other properties in the township, so these will now be in the city. I think the long-term safety concern is leaving this access over 125th Street West is dangerous, because that road will get busier as development occurs in the area. So if the homes do remain, the preference is to take them out through the subdivision, those 3 homes.
Okay. And then in driving up here past the last house that's would be on the north side there as you travel up 125th, there was a gate there as you cross more away from that home, but the vacation is only for about half this red line, right? As you said, yep.
Mayor and Council, so it's just that yellow area, so
Okay.
it's probably, I would say, like a little bit more than a 1/3.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions of staff? Other questions of staff? Seeing none. Good evening. This is a public hearing. If anybody would like to come and speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and welcome.
My name is Ken Streeter, 6900 Winnetka Circle, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. I represent the Briggerman family. I would respectfully request your support of the staff's recommendation, except that I think it should be, the entire red line should be vacated. If there's ever going to be, as was discussed earlier, I think ultimately those homes are going to go. Right now, there's 3 homes on there that do use Old Brickyard Road. And we're going to end up having to come back here and get that vacated. Second of all, ultimately, if there's a housing plan approved there, if there is a road connection that this council feels needs to be there, at that time, it would be part of that plat, or you wouldn't approve the plat to get them in anyway. So rather than having to go through two vacation processes, if you vacate it now, the ultimate authority for accessibility is in the hands of the people who are making this decision tonight. So I would advocate that the entire red area there be vacated. That's what we requested, and really that's what we'd like to see. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about it. It's a dead end right now. It's farmed. You know, it's not used. And ultimately, I believe, as Michael said, those homes are going to be dealt with, okay, whether they are ultimately a part of the Greenway. I know the county would like that shut off. And if that's the wish of the council, then when the developer comes in with a housing plan, that's something you can insist on. But at this point, why would we come and get rid of a portion of it and then only to have to come back if we get these other problems solved and have to vacate the other half?
Very good. Questions of the representative? Questions of the representative?
Thank you.
Thank you. City staff, is there a concern there with the west half of is the Brigham family control that entire section up to those houses on the east side?
Mayor and council, so they, get this to work, there we go. They control this piece in here, this property, and here's a little better. So their farm is in this area. And so ultimately, if this does get closed and these people choose not to sell, this would be their access out.
Okay. Rationale for if the developer, I'm sorry. Steve?
Mayor and council members, many times roadway easements through platting are vacated after the fact. In this case, we're doing it up front, and there's a lot of unknowns. So I heard testimony that it would prohibit us from, or eliminate us from bringing it back twice. Typically we would, wouldn't bring it back twice, but this is a way that we could advance what they want to do now by splitting it, but by preserving a roadway easement that is there today and not giving up those rights to that we could possibly need it for utility purposes in the future or roadway purposes in the future. And even with the proposed plat, we see a need that there's potential to need that easement for roadway purposes, which include a utility easement such as stormwater runoff. So it's a strong recommendation that we do not vacate the westerly part, as Mr. Kursky has it outlined at this time.
And then certainly it could be done during the preliminary plat aspect, is that correct?
So Mayor and Council, this is currently in roadway easement. You'll see an item coming up next where we have someone who granted an easement and now the other party won't give it up. I think, as Mr. Lillehog mentioned, we would rather keep the city's options open so that we're not having to come back to you with a more complicated situation later where the only way these people can get out is 125th Street.
Well, if it doesn't connect east to west, and then you needed a cul-de-sac at the bulb cul-de-sac at the end, or, okay, thank you. Other questions of staff? Other questions of staff? This is a public hearing. Would anybody else like to come forward and make comment on this? Seeing none, Councilor Brennan?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes to close the public hearing. Someone want to start us off? Councilor Whiting?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R 2022-070, approving the vacation of a segment of the public roadway easement located of East 125th Street.
I have a motion and a second, and it is just a section of it then, and the developer and/or the landowner would have to come back at a later date. When development proceeds, and I get that, I guess I stand for staff in this matter. Till we have further developmental pressures or further plan, I would stand for that, half that easement that is stated in this. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. You have your half vacation. Thank you very much. Let's move ahead then to 8A1, our financial review for April. Nate, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a short presentation tonight, but I'll be covering the financial review through April. This slide shows the general fund through April, so approximately 33% of the way through the year. Again, this early in the year, numbers can be skewed due to the timing of payments or receipts if there's large ones received. Beginning with revenues, property taxes and special assessments will be received in June with the first half settlement. We are still continuing to see a lot of building activity. Building permit revenue is tracking significantly ahead of budget targets and where we were last year through April. Currently, we're at 71% of our budget for the year. On the expenditure side, we are within the budget target in total, and I'd consider each department reasonably in line with budget expectations at this point through the year. Here's the recreational facilities, budget to actual, similar to the general fund again. Large payments at the start of the year or large transactions could impact it. Revenues are in line with budget expectations for the year for both the ice arena and the community center. We've seen an uptick in community center revenues from this time last year, about 60,000 more. And then I just wanted to kind of give a quick update on the 2021 financial report. Our auditors have been here, and we're close to completing that audit. They'll present at the second meeting in June, but happy to say that we'll be receiving a clean audit opinion, and they do not have any audit comments or concerns in regards to the 2021 audit. If there's any questions, I can answer them for you.
Questions on that? I have a question on your memo page on your cover sheet and talked about miscellaneous investment earnings, and of course we're in a rising interest rate environment. Do we have a good handle how we're going to try to work out of our longer term investments that have a mark-to-market unrealized?
So once a year, we're required to mark down or mark up our investments to whatever the market value is at that point at the end of the year. So you'll have from whatever it was at the beginning of the year to the end of the year, there's going to be a change depending on where interest rates go. With interest rates going up, there will be a larger market value adjustment down, so a loss. And it was significantly large. I think it was around $2 million that we're looking at right now. Obviously, it'll depend where interest rates end at the end of the year. So part of it will probably be picked up a little bit with increased interest income through the end of the year as long as rates continue to stay where it's at. Otherwise, it's continuing to ladder out your portfolio, and then over time, it's usually lags a little bit, but you'll end up
mature at full value.
And so it's not reflected right now in the miscellaneous in the general fund. That's where it would be at the end of the year. The general fund is probably about, a third or a half of what would be received we allocate based on cash balances. So there'll be, significant portion picked up the general fund, but not all of it.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Sand Ventures down here real low, but we're opening here in another week or two and hoping for a hot summer.
June 10th.
You're getting ahead of yourself, Mayor. Not in a week or two.
Okay, when?
June 10th.
June 10th.
All right. I'm still looking for a hot summer. Optimist. All right. Any other questions for Nate? If not, thank you very much for your review. All right. let's move ahead then to 8B1, Planned Unit Development Amendment for Canterbury Crossings. And Michael, welcome back.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Again, this is a Canterbury Crossing PUD amendment and a final plat of Canterbury Crossing Second Edition. So this is the parcel we're talking about. Pulte Homes has already either built out or is building out the first section of this development. This is the area of concern. There was an easement granted a while ago by Canterbury. They were not able to come to consideration with the adjacent property owner. So there was originally in the proposed PUD a condition requiring that that private easement be vacated prior to the construction of that second phase. That is not going to happen, so we're here for a pre-PUD amendment. Excuse me, the amendment reduces setback of the units to the private drive to 22 feet. They eliminate sunrooms as an option on the units. It shifts the private drive 7 to 10 feet. Includes a placement of a row of 6-foot evergreens as screening from the easement and the farm land area. And Pulte is to provide a disclosure statement to the owners regarding the easement. So this is the easement area you can see here and over here. So we've had to move the units back out of the easement, hence there's no sunrooms on these particular easements. So here's the proposed landscaping plan with some additional screening so they're not looking at the back of that farm. And then this will be the final plat. There's 2 separate motions before you tonight. One is an ordinance amending the Canterbury Crossing PUD. The second would be a resolution approving the final plat of the Canterbury.
Questions of staff, questions of staff. This map here, this is what the final would look like. If the easement was approved, that southern property line would be down lower to the south if the easement was granted?
Mayor and Council, that's correct.
All right. So we're just seeing here what the final would look like without it.
Mayor and Council, so this is, these are townhomes, so you're just buying, the rest is common area. So this is actually what you purchase when you purchase your townhome. Originally, some of the yards and additions were down in that easement area. Those have now been eliminated, and they're leaving that easement in place. And if you look at the landscaping plan, so they're going to be planting along the common area as a row of evergreens to basically screen that farm area.
All right. And, okay, other questions of staff? Other questions of staff? I feel like it's really unfortunate this easement has been talked about and now it's time and it's not available, and I applaud the developer for obviously the workaround here, but, okay.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, it's critical for the developer to build this next section of road so
Right.
that this is not a dead end and they can access out into Howard Drive.
Okay. Other questions of staff? Comments? If not. Counselor Contreras.
I'll take the first one. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance O 2022-014, amendment of the Canterbury Crossing PUD.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the first part of this amendment. Further discussion? Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Counselor Whiting.
I'll take the second one with, make a motion to adopt resolution number R 2022-077, the final plat of Canterbury Crossing, Second Edition.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Contreras for the final plat. Again, I'm sorry that this easement didn't work out. I know that farm area is one of our legacy farm owners in town, but would have been great to have this work out, but unfortunately it didn't. I applaud the developer for their flexibility. Motion on the table in a second. Further discussion? 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 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those Those opposed, that motion passes. Thank you very much. Let's move ahead then to 9A. The city bill list is in front of us for our review and comment. Any comment, discussion? Seeing none, we would move ahead then to 9B, liaison report and administration report. Counselor Brennan.
Yep, last night was the SPUC meeting, and the water department reported that water pumpage typically increases in May, and it is starting to increase to handle the summer irrigations. Electricity, there was 3 outages that affected 31 customers, and the outages lasted from 30 to 60 minutes, and that was storm-related over the high winds that we had. They're currently relocating overhead lines on the Morris-Hanson area, and SPUC assisted with the city in taking down ashtrays that had emerald ash borer. SPUC is working on vision, mission, and values statements, which is good to see. And I think it's really, they're really working on making sure that collaboration and openness and customer service is included in their vision, mission, values statement. So it's good to see that that's something that's changing in the organization. And SPUC is working, is adopting a park, and they're adopting the west end of the Memorial Park. And their first cleanup day is on Friday. The Live, Learn, and Earn Housing Committee met last week. The Shakopee hotels were discussed, and Commissioner Beard kind of alluded to that. Martha Brannon from His House spoke. His House provides shelter at the Travel Lodge in one of the hotels on 12th Avenue to people who do not qualify for vouchers. They also provide meals and counseling services to those people. Since the meeting, she's reached out to me to set up a time to meet. So I'll be getting back to you on that conversation. And I think the rest of it, Commissioner Beard already discussed. It was setting up a workshop between us to discuss homeless housing. So
Okay.
we already got that taken care of.
Counselor, thank you very much. Counselor Whiting.
Nothing to report this week.
Thank you. Counselor Contreras.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended on Thursday, May 5th, the Riverbank Stabilization with Congresswoman Mangie Craig, where she secured $3.5 million so we can work on that project. Thank you to her. Also, I attended with the DELT for the schools, the multicultural festival. That was awesome to see everybody dressed in their attire from their countries. Beautiful. And then yesterday, I attended the ribbon cutting for the Sabre Fields, and for Bill Farmer and Mark Nye, the multipurpose and wrestling room. And then the school board meeting yesterday also, where the best part, I was so excited, was to see that the school board added 2 student members to their board. So they established 2 students where they will now participate. They won't, obviously, they'll be ex-officio members. They won't vote, but I thought that was great. We're getting them started young, and I actually told them that I would bring that back and see. I know I had mentioned it before in one of our workshops, but I thought it'd be a great idea. Maybe not for the council, because it is a little harder. I remember when I started, and I felt like I was a deer with headlights on, and I was like, oh, no, not gonna work. So for them, if we could start them maybe in the Park and Rec or the Planning Commission, but if we can start them young and get what we call fresh blood, would be awesome.
Well,
So it's just, I can forward everything that we got that was presented and how they presented it, and maybe it'd be an opportunity for us to continue to partner up with the schools. And last, sorry, where's my note? What did I do? Oh, tonight for SDA, they were holding a webinar where it's Let's Talk Social Justice and the Legal System, and it did start at 7 tonight, so it will be recorded. So if you're interested, stay tuned to the SDA website to watch the recording of it.
Good.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did see the students, that engagement aspect to the school board. I thought that was pretty, is that the first time that's happened?
Yes,
That's,
that I know. Yeah.
That's very exciting, and the input and just the exposure and engagement, at least they're at the table, and that discussion continue. Thank you. For my mayor report, on May 5th, I spoke, gave an update to the city, to the Chamber of Commerce in town, as well as Chief Tate spoke on crime and issues, and we have a pretty safe community. The facts bear that out. It was interesting, some in the audience even were looking at that going, wow, you know, our population and has really, you know, almost doubled in the last 20 years, yet our crime rate has come down by over half. And you had one graph with the population and the other one with the crime rate going down. I thought, in a growing community, I think it's a real hats off to our police department and our community. Crime rate is a couple ticks below 6%, and we might even see some better numbers coming. So that was great. Also, yes, Angie Craig on the riverfront on May 5th, well-attended event. You know, we can really start with $3.5 million and get that going. Hopefully the end of the state session in St. Paul coming to an end, where there's optimism that a deal was reached and they're going to have a bonding bill, and wouldn't that be great if we get to that other portion from the state and really dig into this project. So, but my hat's off to Angie Craig, a real champion of the federal effort on that, and for the riverbank stabilization. And you know, you go right to the river and you can see that stormwater sandpipe right there, fully exposed. Pretty dramatic. May 6th, I had a chance to someone that I looked to, and Jesse Tice retired. And if you're talking about at RAR, a real community-based organization that has grown, been here for over 150 years, and Jesse Tice has been at the helm of that locally here for 30, 40 years, and always stepping up, always leaning in, and donations to the fire department and et cetera throughout the community. Through a real, if you're going to be a company in a local community, RAR has a good model for what they're doing, and Jesse Tice has been a big part of it, making innovations and expanding that place. So that was great. Also, I just heads up here on May 26th, the Chamber of Commerce Main Street Banquet is coming up on a Thursday, May 26th. I think it's at 5:30 or so. Get your tickets now. We have a thriving, vibrant, alive downtown. It's just fantastic, and couldn't be more proud of our downtown, the business owners, and the city and their efforts over the years to keep that going. It wasn't, you know, kind of have a short memory, but you go back to 2011, 2012, and our downtown wasn't doing too well. And you go back to even 2000 when it wasn't there. About every 10 years, we have something going. We have a downtown which some towns don't even have. And I encourage people to get out there in other towns where they do have downtowns and they're boarded up and half empty. I am thankful for our downtown and what we have here. Should be all very proud of that. That's it for my mayor's report, and now we'll move forward to Mr. Reynolds, the administration report.
Nothing to report this week. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. All right.
We got time to hit that vibrant downtown.
Item number 10, other business. Just to get a feel of, to try to build some consensus. Would there be consensus for a joint meeting of the city and county?
Yes?
Yes.
I think that's important, yep.
Okay. So, direct staff to dial that up over the next, it'll be a tough match on the calendars, but let's try to make it work out.
Yeah, I'll wait for Ms. Vermillion to get in contact with me, and then we'll throw some dates around, and then I'll forward that out to everybody and see what we can come up with.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other business before this council? Any other business? Seeing none? Counselor Brennan?
I'll make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, June 7th at 7 PM.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn. And further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:50.